Thank you. So this is a really good choice for you to come here. First presentation Monday morning to find out about the 5 ways of building Oracle applications, because you might be running a Forms application and you're wondering, well, what should I thinking about moving to Apex or ADF? And after this presentation, you might figure out, hey, I can just stay with Forms. I can just go to Michael Ferrante's Forms New Features presentation and I'm all good. Or you might be, have planned to go to ADF sessions all week and you see my comparison here and you say, oh, I think I'll do Apex instead. Or you might have set up for Apex and you might want to go and decide you want to go and see ADF instead. So good choice. I had to borrow Peter's laptop here because mine did not connect, and that's too bad because I did want to show you my laptop cover, because I used to be into stickers. So when you put on stickers, you had an Apex sticker and an ADF sticker on your laptop. But Oracle is coming out with new development tools faster than I change my laptop. So now these are all Legos. So when Oracle comes out with something new, I can just rearrange these buttons and I don't have to change my laptop. So we've got the 5 ways of building Oracle applications. I've been trying to keep it to 5 ways. I've been giving this presentation since 1998. And there were also exactly 5 ways of building Oracle applications back then, which happens to match exactly the number of fingers I have on one hand when I can need the other hand to hold the mic. Now, we've been moving forward, so this is like 5 plus 2, and the next version of this presentation is the 7 ways of building Oracle applications. So, Oracle is still adding on to the pile. And by the way, can anybody guess which one of the 5 ways were in my 1998 presentation that's still in the 5 ways today? Forms, yes, exactly. Right. So in case you nod off during the presentation, I know it's early in the morning and it was the welcome reception yesterday. So here is the overview. Now I'm giving I'm grading everything. It gets one of these 5 arrows. So it's very good, it's neutral, it's bad, and it's very bad. And I always have interesting discussions with people when I give out these arrows, because people will believe that their favorite tool, of course, needs the bright up arrow. I have it on a little card here. So if you want, you can just pick up the card after the presentation. So we will be talking about ADF Business Components and ADF Faces, the ADF technology. So ADF actually has multiple user interface technologies. So the ADF Business Components is the business layer, that's good. The ADF Faces is the web front end, the JSF-based, that's good. There's also an ADF Swing front end, that's bad. There is Application Express, very good, 5.0, 5.1 coming out. Oracle Forms, I'm giving that the down arrow, and I'll be discussing that with Mia in the bar later. So that's my take on Oracle Forms. We have JET, JavaScript Extension Toolkit. It gets a neutral arrow. It's a bit too new. The jury's out on whether that's useful or not. PL/SQL gets a better score than the database, because PL/SQL than the Forms, because PL/SQL is in the database. So PL/SQL is definitely not going away. I've got Oracle reports going down. I got SQL going up. There's actually more SQL stuff happening. I keep this list at oratoolwatch.com, so you can go there and see the latest version. But that's what it looks like today. So this is an overview from TOB. They're rating programming languages on various aspects. I'm very sorry that it's so small. Now, the reason it's so small is, of course, because I wanted to fit in PL/SQL at the bottom here. So PL/SQL at the 18th place. So we might, in the Oracle world, think that PL/SQL is the be-all and end-all, but not really. Like PL/SQL, see, it just exactly beats D. D? Who the hell ever heard of D? Right? But we're ahead of COBOL. So great. And we've got Java all the way up at the top. That's a really popular programming language. So people call Java the new COBOL. Well, maybe COBOL was up there like 30, 40 years ago. But Java is a very popular programming language. So we need to have that in mind when we're choosing a tool, because it does affect how many developers we can attract. I took another one from Tiopi. This is a graph over time. The reason I took this is a slightly older one. The reason I took it is because it has this very interesting graph here. This one goes up and then it goes down there. That's Objective-C. That's the iOS language. That's the language that you use to build iOS apps, native apps. And it's interesting that it peaked around 2014 and then it fell off dramatically, which I'll get back to you when we get to whether you need a mobile application. So, as Peter said, my name is Sten Vesterli. I come from Denmark. I've been an Oracle ACE director for a while. I've been working with Oracle for a long time. And I try to make the world a better place by helping people use the right technology. So that's why I love giving this presentation, because I can help people. I can tell you, okay, this is what this is good for. This is what that is good for. This is the stuff that user groups are made for. You cannot go to an Oracle product manager. Like in Oracle, everybody's a product manager for some product. So it's unreasonable to go to an Oracle product manager and say, well, is your tool better than that tool? Yes, of course it is, he will say. Well, he sort of has to say that. But this is the kind of stuff, the comparison. This is what you get from the user groups. This is what you get from this session, from me. This is what you get from your colleagues when you discuss that. When you discuss it later and talk to the people who have been in this presentation, or try my arguments out on some of your colleagues back home, and see if they hold water in your situation. I've written a couple of books on. They're all on Oracle ADF. So I have them on a little card here. So I do teach Oracle ADF and do ADF consulting in addition to this tool comparison. So the first important decision, or the first important thing you need to think about in your when you're choosing a development tool, is actually whether your application is data-driven or UI-driven. And that's a distinction that we're not really used to making, but it is important. A data-driven application starts with the data design, and the UI in a data-driven application is derived from the data model. You can pretty much recognize the data model in the user interface. And forms applications tend to be like this. So forms applications, if you have invoices in your system, you have an invoices table. When you have an invoices table, you have an invoices screen. And the user will go in there and he will query it. One of my ACE director colleagues used to work for the Jet Propulsion Lab. And they had Oracle eBusiness Suite, which is a classic Oracle forms-based, data-driven application. And they had somebody who was allocating incoming invoices to projects. And they had a department of 8 people doing that. That's how many, they have about 20,000 projects running at any one time. So they do get a lot of invoices. And the way that works in eBusiness Suite is you go in and you go into the invoices screen and you query it. And because you have invoices, you have an invoices screen, and you take the invoice number and you take it out from your form, and you put it into the world's #1 software integration platform, Windows Notepad. Right? And you paste it into Windows Notepad. And then you go to another screen where you look up your projects, because there's a projects table, there's a project screen. And you take the invoice number from Windows Notepad and you paste it in. Because that's how data-driven applications work. You can recognize the data. You can recognize the data model in the screen design. And the reason that applications look like this is because it's much easier. When we started out with forms, that was what forms was capable of. That was what our client was capable of. When you build a forms application, you say, okay, here's a block and it has a base table. It's just sort of hardwired into the development tool that is data-driven. Now, if you want to build something that's UI-driven, where you actually start talking to the user and sketching out screens on a whiteboard and agreeing with the user, oh, this is what we want, or this is not what we want, and then once you've figured out what screen supports the user's work, then you start building it, then you have a more complicated task, because this is the user interface you want, but third normal form, a good database design does not change. So the database still has to be in a good shape, which means that you have a more complicated work of mapping them together. So in a data-driven application, it goes straight, it's connected straight. But in a UI-driven application, you have your data and your user interface is not directly connected. And we see that in some approaches. Oracle ADF is very much built to be able to build UI-driven applications. And that's why ADF has two layers. It has a data layer and it has a UI layer. And you can wire those together any way you want. But it does add to the development complexity. If you want to build something that's UI-driven and you want to have, but you have a mobile front end, then you have the problem that the mobile front end can't handle the complexity. Because if you're building a UI-driven application, the user interface can pick up data in an ADF application. It can pick up data from anywhere, and it does have a lot of power. A mobile application does not have very much power. So that's what something like Mobile Cloud Service actually does. It brings in a UI facade. So the user interface, the mobile device, just talks to somebody who's already managed all the complexity. And then you have something here in the middle. Some people built such a layer on their own, and some use a technology like Mobile Cloud Service. So that's also a way to build a UI-driven application. But here are the 5 ways. Okay, so we've got forms. I'll be talking about Application Express, ADF, about JavaScript Extension Toolkit, and then about math. So those are the 5 that we'll be covering here. So Oracle says they have a form statement of direction. Say we're still committed to Oracle Forms. Now before they apparently haven't committed to a number yet, because the old version used to say there will be a Forms 12c. And now they have shipped a Forms 12c. A new version does not say there will be a Forms 13c. But they're thinking about it. They are planning it and reviewing new features. And of course, this is an Oracle document, so it does say, blah blah blah, and we're not promising to deliver you any software ever. The interesting thing about the form statement of direction is it used to be on the OTN site. It isn't. Now the only way you can find the form statement of direction is if you already have an Oracle support account. Okay, so you can't figure out what Oracle is doing with forms unless you're already a customer. Interesting. So forms, this is the Fusion middleware, this is the release timelines, and we've got forms. Forms 12c is part of the 12.2 stack, so that has an official release date of October 15. We get the usual Oracle support timelines. So we've got 5 years of Premier support, 3 years of extended support, which means that we can run Oracle Forms 12c until October 2023. Okay, that's still a while away, right? We're not on. If we're running Forms today, we don't have to go run out and do something new. Oracle is giving us until 2023. Now, if you're not on Forms 12c, and most people aren't because it's brand new, then you need to sort of get moving, because if you're on Forms 11G R2, that has Premier support until December this year. So that means that, come November or something, then your friendly Oracle sales guy is going to be calling you and say, oh, I noticed that you have on Oracle Forms 11G R2. Would you like to purchase extended support? So, with the Oracle extended support is the extra money you pay for the privilege of running old versions of their software. Okay, so you pay extra to get extended support. If you pay up, then you can get another couple of years on Forms 11G R2. But you do want to move to Forms 12c. One reason that you want to move to Forms 12c, by the way, before the end of this year, is probably that if you're running Firefox and you're not running Forms 12c, your forms are not going to be running next year, because Oracle Forms depends on a Java applet running inside the browser. That depends on a specific API, the NP API, that's the plugin API for browsers. Google Chrome already threw it away. You can't run Forms in Google Chrome anymore. Firefox says, okay, we'll give you to the end of 2016, but then we won't support it anymore. That means at the end of 2016, if you're still running Forms 11G, then your only choice is the one browser that we've been trying to avoid for 10 years, Internet Explorer. Because Internet Explorer, not Edge, because Edge doesn't have it, the new Microsoft browser, but the old buggy Microsoft browser is the only one that's going to be running next year. So you want to move to 12c, because 12c has supports that you can launch the Forms applet via Java Web Start, so it runs outside of the browser. So it just uses the browser to download and to connect, but it's not running inside the browser. The Java applet is running outside the browser in a separate process, which kind of looks like Forms runtime to me. But things move in circles. So that's Forms. Now, ADF Faces is Oracle's strategic choice for their big applications. It's based on Java Server Faces. So it's Java-based. It runs on the server. So Java Server Faces has the logic separated from the UI. So if you're familiar with Java Server Pages, JSP, that was a horrible mess, because JSP allowed us to mix HTML tags with Java tags. It was just HTML, and by the way, start code and run this code, and output some HTML tags and run some more code and output some HTML tags, and it was an unreadable mess. So Java Server Faces solves that problem because the UI is components. So you will build your UI with a number of components, but you won't have any code on your page. Your UI components are connected to Java beans, so to separate Java classes. So that means that you have a nice separation of your code, your business logic is Java, and you have your pages, Java Server Faces, JSF components. ADF Faces has the option that you can split a large application into a number of task flows. So you have bounded task flows, have a well-defined entry point. So you can have a number of pages that you have wired together. You've visually drawn. This page can go to this page, then we run some code, then we go to that page. And these modules make it possible for you to build a very large application. Oracle decided on ADF Faces for their cloud applications, all of Oracle's SaaS offerings, their software as a service. It used to be called Fusion applications. Now it's called cloud applications because not everything is cloud. And that's built with ADF Faces. When they announced it, I thought, hey, I thought that was 10 years ago. I thought they're crazy. Like, they can't build a web application that has the user interface that you need from an advanced application like Oracle E-Business Suite or like Fusion applications. But they kept at it, and they implemented JSF. It's been through a number of iterations, but it's a very powerful tool, and it's their strategic choice. So that means, like we have Forms today. Why do we have Forms today? Because Oracle built E-Business Suite in Forms. And E-Business Suite brings in a lot of money for Oracle. So when we moved from client server and said, oh, now it has to be 3-tier, then Oracle put in the effort to make Oracle Forms run in a 3-tier architecture because they were using it themselves for their big applications. Oracle is using ADF Faces for cloud applications for their big SaaS applications. So that means that ADF Faces is going to be around for the next 20 years. You connect your ADF Faces application to some business services, underlying business services. ADF Business Components is the most popular, but you can tie it to web services, etc. ADF Business Components is the second layer. So this is a UI-driven application. ADF Faces is your top layer. ADF Business Components is an example of the underlying layer. You do it in JDeveloper, build your business components. You can just point to a table and click through it, put together, visually design your business components, and gather data from various different tables. It does all the object relational mapping, and it handles all the transactions. All that stuff is handled in ADF Business Components. And it's a very productive way of building applications. So you can build your business components layer, and then you can build your ADF Faces layer on top, and they connect very well together. So ADF Faces components, they have all the hooks they need to connect through the ADF binding layer, which is a connection between Faces and the business components. There's also something called ADF Swing. So Swing, Java Swing, is the technology for building client-server applications, or building client applications, building an application that runs on your specific workstation. So a tool like JDeveloper is built in Java Swing. Like it's a tool that you install on your machine, and you can build an a Swing application that connects to the ADF Business Components as well using the ADF Swing components. So this is a client server. This is a client server choice. You can connect it to anything you want on the back end through the binding layer, so ADF Business Components or some other layer, but it's not widely used. We've done surveys in the ADF Enterprise Methodology group, like who's actually using this, and we came out with about 4%, and by now it's officially deprecated. So you want to be very careful if you want to, before you pick up ADF Swing as your chosen technology. Now it might be that you need it for if you want to connect to some device that's wired directly to your workstation. That used to be the requirement for if you want a client-server application. Things that run in your browser cannot talk to something that's connected to the serial port on your machine. So if you want something that has full access to like a barcode reader, then might need a client-server application. If you do need that, then ADF Swing might be a choice, but it's not widely used, so it's a bit dangerous. We've got Oracle Jet, JavaScript Extension Toolkit. So this is a toolkit, not a framework. That's I'll get back to that in a little while. But it's not everything you need. So Oracle Jet is the UI part of your application. So Oracle has taken a number of popular open source products put together, and they've added some of the stuff that they felt were missing. So I guess that it's. So Oracle, they did that, of course. They wanted to have a JavaScript tool because they had JavaScript developers, and they wanted to keep them sort of in line. And I'm guessing, that that the JavaScript developers were sort of going off in each of their own directions, and Oracle decided, hey, we have so many people here, we need to streamline this in some way. So they put together Oracle Jet, the JavaScript Extension Toolkit, which is a specific version of specific open source tools, and then it's some Oracle additions. And it's open source. Open source from Oracle. So it does exist. So when they announced it, they say, oh, we're going to open source it. I was thinking, yeah, right. Way down the line, it's going to be something next year. But no, it is open source. So you can go and get the whole Jet toolkit, all the code. You can go and get it off GitHub. Now, the real proof of it being open source is, now I'll encourage you all to go and get it and do some fix and submit it back to Oracle. Now, when they take one of those, then it's open source. So until now, so far it's read-only open source, and that's fine. But when you really get something submitted back, then that's the real proof. It's bugless. Oh yeah. Well, we might. Yeah. Right. Okay. So there's nothing. So Oracle Jet leaves nothing to be desired at all. Let's see. Do I hear a challenge here? Right. Well, not bugs. We might have, enhancements. Yes. Okay. By the way, it's similar. Like, this is truly announced as open source. It's available on GitHub. So sooner or later, we're going to get some community contribution pulled into this. Like Oracle ADF, on the other hand, Oracle ADF is really read-only open source. If you have Oracle ADF, you get there's a lot of Java classes that Oracle has written for you. You can get the code. So if you have a support contract, you can tell Oracle, if you just download ADF, there's no source code there. But if you have a support contract, you open a service request with Oracle, they will send you, a stack of papers that has to be signed in unicorn ink by your managing director. And then when you send that back to Oracle, then they will give you access to the source code. So the ADF source code is also available, so you can get it and see how Oracle does it. But they have not in any way given us the impression that they are going to be taking enhancements there. So I would recommend against changing it. But if you want to debug something, then you can step through it. Back to our Oracle Jet. Jet needs a lot of JavaScript programming. So Oracle is if you look at an Oracle Jet presentation, they say it's targeted at intermediate to advanced JavaScript programmers. Definitely so. And I'm obviously not even intermediate in JavaScript, because when I look at it, I say I can build an application in JavaScript and I can manage to get something working in Jet. But the whole Jet development concept is, the Jet developer's guide is, oh, you want to use a component like this? Well, here's a bunch of HTML and here's a bunch of JavaScript. You just copy and paste into your application. So it does tend to be rather code heavy, but that's how JavaScript is. Like, that's the way JavaScript works. So it's not, if you want to have a JavaScript toolkit, that's your choice, but it does take a lot of code. Mobile Application Framework, MAF. So if you want something mobile, well, I'll take my mobile first slide. Mobile first is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's like, okay, we are going to be building a freeway, but you have to think bicycle first. Like, you're trying to, and I saw Larry Page from Google says mobile only. Mobile only is worse. Like, mobile only, that's like Trump level stupid. There is not. You need mobile. There are use cases for mobile, yes, but to say mobile only. We were discussing that in the symposium yesterday, and what mobile only means is that all applications should have a mobile capability for the parts that's relevant. So you should not have an application. So a traditional Oracle Forms application does need to have a mobile front end in the places where it makes sense. But to say mobile only, just make sure that we don't misunderstand it and say, okay, we are going to do account receivables on our smartphones, because that's not going to happen. Now, the mobile use case is something that takes 2 minutes or less. The true mobile, like mobile on a smartphone, the Oracle usability guys, very, very smart guys, and they do a lot of research, and they figured out that the usage of a mobile device drops off dramatically when you get to something that takes more than 2 minutes. 1 minute is better. So the application, I think the one that they say is most used of all the 160 Oracle mobile applications, that's the expense report application. So one thing, it has voice entry. You can just take a picture, or you can just say, K-scope, beer, $10, and it'll register that. So very clever, and it's a mobile use case. You want to register your expenses. It has the expense report approval. So it's like what I call Tinder for expense reports. Right? You get your expense reports, and you can just stand there on the line saying swipe left, approved, rejected, approved, rejected. So that works well in a mobile use case when your manager, it's not the high point of his week, approving your expenses, right? But when he's standing in line to board an aircraft, then he can just sit there and approve your expenses. That's a good use case. Now, if you have these use cases, then the second part is you don't need an app. Or you don't need an app unless it has to work offline, or it needs access to device features. If you want to be able to take pictures, if you want to have access to the GPS, then you do need an app. And if you want something that works where you can't count on having a connection, then you do need an app. Otherwise, you can't build a normal web application that is just customized for the small screen, for the mobile screen. So a mobile app is not something that you'll need for every use case. There are places for mobile apps, but probably, in my experience, when I'm advising my customers, fewer cases than they originally think. Now, if you build a mobile web application, you do need to wrap it in an app. I had some interesting discussions with people and with clients and with the UX guys. Now, you can take a bookmark on your phone, and you can say add to home screen. Only 95% of all users don't know that or never do it. So they believe that they have to have an app. So what you do is you build if you don't need offline, you don't need access to device features, and you just build something that's a web application, what you do is you wrap it inside an app. So you take an app that only contains one web page component that points to that URL of your application. Then you have an app so that people can install. It can be in your apps in an app store. It can be downloaded, installed on your machine. So it has an icon. And the only point is to give it an icon so it will run the application. It will run the code that's on your server. So that's another way of doing mobile. But if you decide that you do need mobile, then Mobile Application Framework is a great way to do it. So Mobile Application Framework gives you an ADF-like development experience. So it looks like you build it in JDeveloper. The MAF development tool is actually a plugin for JDeveloper. So you install it inside JDeveloper with the check for updates. It has task flows, pages, components. The business logic is Java. You have easy access to the device features. That's really, if you've been developing ADF, the device features are just available as data controls. If you want to take a picture, you just have the camera. You grab in the take picture function onto your screen, and it asks you, oh, how do you want? Do you want this as a link or as a button? I would like it as a button. Okay, there you have it, and you have the device feature. You're using the device feature, so they're really easily accessible inside MAF. It's also really clever if your shop is using Java, and we saw 20% of everybody, that's the most popular programming language. If you want to build a mobile application and you want to build your business logic in Java, then you can do it in MAF. Now this is really clever because Steve Jobs hates Java, hated Java. And he said, there's no way Java is going to run on my beautiful devices. So he said, you cannot have a JVM in an app. That's why Oracle MAF does not have a JVM. It just has something that looks exactly like it. So there's probably some benefit from Oracle having this great big legal department because they managed to figure out a way to build mobile applications in Java. So it's not a JVM. Your code is not actually running in a JVM, but it just has all the exact same calls. So you can you can write Java code and there's just an API that it calls that makes it work when you're actually running it. So that means that you can build it in Java. And then it has the benefit that you can deploy it, the same thing to iOS and Android. So Oracle used to say, so whenever there was a MAF presentation, people would say, okay, how about Windows? And the Oracle product managers would always say, yeah, we'll support Windows as soon as somebody starts using it. Apparently somebody did start using it because now we do have Windows support. So we have Windows 10 support. I don't think there's very few Windows phones out there. Can we actually run it on a Windows phone? No. Okay, on a tablet, Windows 10 tablet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because Microsoft, they have a good marketing department like us, so names are confusing. So you've got Windows 10 Mobile, which is for phones. We don't support that because that's ARM processors and stuff different from the PC. Okay. What we support, as you said, are Windows 10 tablets or even a regular desktop. Although you cannot do touch on those, but
yeah.
And then it works. I mean, I've got a video on YouTube if you want to see that.
Okay, so and that's the same, that's the same code base. Now this is nice if you want to support multiple platforms because you click on one button, it builds you an iOS application. You click on another button, it builds you an Android application. But it does depend on the SDKs. So it's actually when you want to build an iOS application, you have to have the Apple Xcode SDK installed on your machine, which only installs on Macs. So if you don't have a Mac and you want one, then you just go and convince your boss, we need to have a mobile application and it needs to support iOS. Because then he has to give you a Mac because otherwise you can't deploy iOS applications. Okay, so that's MAF. Then we've got in 2004 we got this cute little toy called HTMLDB, and if that's this little toy robot, well, it's definitely grown up. And we've got Application Express. We've got 5.0 now, brilliant tool, and we've even got we got the next version coming up. But What we have, what's GA today, generally available, is Application Express 5.0. So that's all browser-based development, no development tool to install. All your logic is PL SQL. So this is PL SQL stored procedures. So ADF is Java. All the business logic is Java. Forms is PL SQL. Application Express is PL SQL. Now, Application Express has a data-driven UI. So it's defined. So when you build a page, the natural way to build the application is you build a page, you say which table, which columns do you want, insert, update, deletes, and you're done. So it's pretty similar to the new block wizard in Forms. That's it. So the thinking behind Application Express is very much a data-driven UI. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't build something else. It just means that it's harder. I built, way back when I was a Forms programmer in my earlier career, I built a Forms application that looked just like a Windows application. Man, we had triggers everywhere. We'd probably used every trigger that Oracle Forms had. And we could make our Forms application look nothing like a Forms application. It was possible, but it was definitely not a good use of time. We should have, if we wanted a Windows application, we should have built a Windows application. And same thing with Application Express. If you want to build a UI-driven application, some people have tweaked Application Express to do miraculous things, but either it takes a lot of time, or it takes a lot of skill, or it takes both. The sweet spot for Application Express is data-driven applications, and the killer feature is that it's very fast. The reason why we build data-driven applications is because they're fast and they're easier on the machine to handle. There are a few limitations in Application Express. Application Express does whole page rendering. So when you click on something, it redraws the whole screen. So that means when you click on something, it will generally send a request off to the server. It'll run some PL SQL code, and that'll return you the next page. Oracle ADF has something called partial page rendering. So it's part of built into ADF that you can say, when you click on something here, I only want you to redraw this corner of the screen or this part of the screen. Roll is complaining. Let's hear it, Roll. It has partial page rendering. Oh, that's good. Okay, so why doesn't it have master detail, 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 detail? No, it has master detail, detail. It doesn't have 7 levels down. Oh, that's great. Great. Let me just fix my slide here. Okay, right. No, that's great. So Apex has moved forward and has partial page rendering. Oh, that's good. So maybe, well, it already has the bright green up arrow. I can't even give it a better arrow. Okay, so 5.1 has master detail detail. And it has the interactive grid, which seems really cool. We got the early adopter, so you can go and sign up right now. So you can't download it, but you can sign up at Apex. It's apexea.oracle.com. Yeah, you can go and sign up for the early adopter release. You can play around with 5.1. They're saying it's production this calendar year. So that's about the closest that you get to a promise from Oracle. It has great charting. They're actually using the Oracle Jet has some very great data visualization components, and they're actually using that inside Apex 5.1. So Apex 5.1 is using the charting from Jet, and which is that's a reason to use a tool like Apex or ADF, is that you don't have to follow the latest trends. Oracle ADF has been through a number of charting engines. Apex has been through a number of charting engines. So it's been drawing flash charts. It's been drawing SVG charts, I believe. We've been doing PNGs. But it's the same chart. So when you move up to the next version, you have a chart that plots this data as a line graph or as a bar graph. But by having a framework like Apex or ADF in between, it means you don't have to worry about the technology changing under you. So this is a slide I stole from an Oracle Apex presentation, and of course, because what I like about it is it's easy to tell an Apex developer because he has this distinctive hairstyle. There's also the comparison here. Like, I don't agree with the comparison, but this is Oracle's take on it. The interesting part here is that Application Express comes with the applications. So Apex comes with a number of pre-built applications. It's also Apex works in this space where the business user is, where Excel is. Now, Apex is the Excel spreadsheet killer. Okay, you take an Excel spreadsheet, you give it to upload it to Apex, and say, okay, could you make me, or you upload it and say, oh, I figured out you want a table with these columns and these data types. Yes, fine. Would you like an application to go with this table? Yes, please. Would you like insert, update, delete? Yes, please. So your spreadsheet that would normally be lying around on a network drive somewhere is suddenly an application that can be used by multiple people safely. So that's definitely a sweet spot for Application Express down in the business users. Now the Apex people would like Forms and Apex to sort of end at the same place. I would tend to think Forms goes further out into enterprise developer. I also think that Java goes towards, you can build rapid applications in Java, but there's a sweet spot for each tool, and Apex does have the coverage in that it has pre-built application and it kills off Excel spreadsheets, or at least it should.
That slide is a little bit political, I would say. So it's pretty old, that slide. My understanding it's also now for enterprise.
Yeah, they're not using that slide anymore. After I picked it up and made fun of it, it disappeared from the deck. Yeah. So that's why this is the only place where you see that slide. Yeah, that's right. It's a statement of where you want to position the product. Yeah.
So in 2004 that was correct, but nothing.
Yeah, right. So what I've done here now, I've been through the tools here. I've created an Oracle Tools test. So if you go to oratoolwatch.com, you can actually answer 10 questions, and it'll give you an example of, or it'll give you my take on which tool you should use. But so you can go play around with it and answer these questions and see if you agree with my take on it. I just put this slide in yesterday, so it's not on the download version of the presentation, but it will be. It just occurred to me when I was discussing Oracle Jet against some of the other tools with some people yesterday, that there is a trade-off that we have between how much intermediation, how much does the framework does for you, and how much productivity you have. The more you let the framework do, the more productivity you have. If you want to code straight to the iron, you write assembler. Not much intermediation there. You get the CPU registers straight up, but you don't have much productivity either. You move up to languages like C, you have less intermediation, but you still don't have an awful lot of productivity, and you can still, you can access memory directly from C. When you move up a little bit further, Jet gives you helps you with some things and has some increase in productivity over writing a straight C program or writing a straight Java program. But the frameworks, Forms, Apex, Math, ADF, all of those, they do more for you. There is more framework magic that happens. Interestingly, when I've been training people to use ADF, I've found that it's been much easier training Forms developers to use ADF than training Java developers. That was a surprise to me. But I realized that ADF and Forms are similar in the way that they accept, a Forms developer will accept that the framework does something for you. I say, here's a data block, it has a base table, and how it does queries, well, I press Control F11 and it does a query. I don't care how it does it. But Java programmers, how does it do it? Well, you can look in Oracle's classes. No, but I don't trust this framework. That's what it always comes down to. So, yeah, so the Java programmers, they're down here somewhere where in the intermediation, and they want to have. So every once in a while they'll invent a new framework because they want to move up a little bit. They want to have a bit more productivity, but they'll have to give away a little bit of control. So they move up a little bit, and then they decide, well, I didn't really like that. I'll just break out of the framework again. So that's why, the Apex, ADF, Forms, Math, they're all full frameworks. They do a lot of things for you. They give a lot of productivity, but that also means that you're giving away some control. And forms people were always been used to that, so it's been easy for them to accept that. Okay, forms did this for me, ADF does that for me. I'll have to handle it in a slightly different way, but same. Whereas a Java programmer, he wants to say, well, I want to write code like a Jet application. It's all code, there's a lot of it. So let's see. Those were the 5 ways. We've got Forms, Application Express, ADF, Jet, and Math. And then, of course, the bonus development features. Application Builder Cloud Service. So you can build. So this is for the. We've been discussing what do we call. The word is citizen developer. Like it's the business users supposed to build applications. Okay, we've been trying to get the business users to build their damn applications themselves for 20 years. Okay, we haven't succeeded yet, but this time Oracle has it. So we're going to be using Application Builder Cloud Service, and it's browser-based like Apex. So you build the whole thing in a browser, you don't install anything, and you can let the user can build tables. So the user can just say, I have this data object that's called a customer, and it has this attribute that's a name, and Application Builder Cloud Service will some way auto-magically create you a table. And you don't know what it's called, and you can't access it, but it's just, trust us, we'll handle it for you. And that's like Apex Web Sheets, where you can build an application where you could let a business user that doesn't understand tables, you can just say, okay, well, I have customers, they have first name, last name, date of birth. And the framework will handle all that magic behind the scenes. And then, the developer can refine the application with JavaScript. So what's going to happen here is, This looks very promising. Now, unfortunately, all of you decided. Unfortunately for you, the hands-on lab is just ending in 10 minutes on Application Builder Cloud Service. So because it's at the same time as this, but and it's not really available. Well, it's Oracle calls it available, but it's sort of kind of available. Like it's not like you can sign up for it, but if you find somebody from Oracle and you in the bar tonight, then you might be able to get a trial of it. And the developer can refine the application with JavaScript. So what's happening? It looks to be a very productive development environment for a developer. Whether the business users are going to use it, I don't know, but. Maybe they can. And then it does have the hooks for you to say, well, this button here, I want to run a piece of JavaScript. Or even, I want to include an Oracle Jet component here. This is built in with Oracle Jet.
This is for cloud only, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's hosted, it runs on Oracle server, it stores all its data on Oracle servers, and you can't mess with it. Yeah. Actually, no. That's actually interesting. It costs you $100 per developer, minimum of 5, and it doesn't cost you anything for runtime. So it's $500 a month for up to 5 people. So when it eventually becomes available, but that's typically when the pricing tab, when the Oracle Cloud Service, all kinds of cloud services, when the pricing tab appears, that means it's really close, because when Oracle gets to the point where when they figured out the pricing, that means they're almost ready to release it. So it's not whereas something like Max mobile application accelerator, where the user can build mobile apps. Now that comes with mobile cloud service. So same thing, in a browser, the user can drag and drop an application together, but that's part of mobile cloud service. You have to have a mobile cloud service license to use that. Okay, let's see. Right, I'll just briefly do this about technology half-life. When we're choosing a tool, we need to think about, are we choosing just the front end, or are we choosing the whole stack? Database, the half-life of a technology is the time it takes for half of the code to be replaced. Okay, that takes 10 years for the database. When you look at your database today, half of your tables are going to be changed in 10 years, but that's how long it'll take for half of them to be changed. Your business logic, half of it will be changed in 4 years, both PL SQL and Java. Your user interface is going to be changed half of it's going to be changed in 18 months. And I just heard yesterday that 50% of all mobile applications are redeveloped after 12 months. So that means that you have, if you're building a UI, your UI is going to be replaced soon. So if you build something with Jet and you don't like it, well, who cares? You're going to be rebuilding it next month anyway, or next year. When you're building your business logic, you might want to have something that's a bit more stable. But Oracle Jet is, as an example, Oracle Jet is just the UI. It only does UI. It has to have some data services behind it. Jet just builds the front end. Whereas Apex is a whole application. So there's database, there's business logic there. ADF, same thing. The database, the stuff that's in the database, changes very slowly. So that means, we have the database is the foundation. So a bit of career advice. The database, a career in the database, well, it changes very slowly. There's not going to be much database design work. There's always going to be ad hoc queries. There's always going to be some tuning. But the database in itself, I don't think so. But the business logic, a career in business logic, now that's good. Because business logic changes, but not too fast. And it doesn't change the technology all the time. Business logic, if you started writing your business logic in Java, it's going to stay in Java. That's why Java has these 20% in the TOB index, because people are using Java and they're writing more and more Java. PL/SQL, same thing. If you have PL/SQL logic, you're going to keep using PL/SQL logic. Web services as well. JavaScript on the server. Well, I don't know, JavaScript is hot everywhere, so of course you have to run JavaScript on the server as well, and Oracle is going to have a cloud service that runs JavaScript on the server. I'm not a fan. Occasionally you get new integration platforms, but it's not like it goes very fast. Like we've been working with SOA and waiting for the benefits of the SOA revolution for a decade. So that's something that moves pretty slowly. So I think business logic is a good place to be. Whereas UI, user interface, it changes rapidly. Okay, it's fashion driven. Every 3 months there's a new JavaScript framework, and so your skills get outed all the time. And the problem with the worst part about the UI is you're being compared to the world's absolute best. So this is the UI I get in Gmail. This is the UI I get in Facebook. Why can't you do that? Well, because they have 400 freaking people doing it. And they can afford to hire the best people in the world. And we're 3. Okay? So that's why we can't build that UI. But that's why, being in UI is not always a great place to be. Now I spent all my time here, so we'll have to take the questions later. But just to wrap up, so what should you use? And I'm no different from Oracle. I'll say okay. I'll say go not to the else for advice, so they will say both yes and no, and I will also say both yes and no. If you want more discussion, then we have a panel discussion on the future of forms. So if you have forms and you want to hear what you should do, well, you can find some people who will not say both yes and no in the panel discussion. That's tomorrow at 2:00. But I'll give you a bit of advice. So for complex applications, if you have it in forms, stay in forms. You don't want to go to the business and say, we are going to run a 2-year, multi-million-dollar project to migrate our forms application. Oh, says the business, and what do we get from that? Oh, it'll work just like before. Okay? No business case. So if you have forms, we've got forms at least until 2023, so we're not in a hurry to get away from it. If you're building something new, I like ADF Faces very well. I like ADF Faces best for complex applications because it has the task flows and the ability to split applications into different parts. Apex has more of it's a number of screens or a number of mini applications. So you need to so if you want to build a big complex application, that's not the sweet spot for Apex. You need to do some stuff to get the versioning and get it working with a large team. Whereas with a medium complexity application, that's where Apex shines. ADF Faces is good, Forms is good. All of these are great for medium complexity apps that don't have a lot of that are not very large. For simple applications, Application Express, definitely. I was talking to Joel Kalman from Oracle about their internal hosted Apex instance, and they have I think they have 70,000 Apex applications. 70,000. That's a 7 and 4 zeros. Okay, they have a hosted internal application. If you've ever received an Oracle T-shirt, that's been a record in one of those applications. Because on Oracle Ballpoint Pen, all the conference giveaways, they'll just do a little application that does that. They have one of their big applications is for their Indian support teams, because India has any number of holidays, and each state has their own holidays. And the Oracle HR system apparently doesn't really handle that well, so they built a little Apex application to manage their support staffing there. So Oracle's using Apex internally, which also means that Apex is not going away. So here's the overview again. It's also on these little cards up here, so you can come here and have one if you want. And then they asked me to give these, put in one of the community slides. But there's like two communities. So there's ADF community in Sheraton 1, and there's the Apex community in Sheraton 3. So tonight from 8 to 10, either if you feel like playing football with the ADF guys, that's Sheraton 1. If you want to go to Apex Open Mic Night, that's in Sheraton 3. And well, there's the tools test. If you want to, it'll give you some kind of answer. So if you answer something, it'll say, okay, you've scored this many points for forms, this many points for ADF. So, right, so that's my last slide. My opinion is that Aura Toolwatch, I have an Oracle Trends report, but that's something you have to pay for. You can follow me on Twitter. I have a blog. You can send me an email. Now, if this presentation gave you everything you were looking for, then I'm very happy. And I'll ask you to please fill in an evaluation sheet with a lot of great marks, which reminds me of, we're talking about, do you need an app? Last year we had an app. This year we got a piece of paper. Okay, if this helped you, that's fine. If you need more, then send me an email. I'll send you. I have a little 5 ways paper that I can send you. So send me an email and ask for the 5 ways paper, and I'll send that to you. And if you want me to help you convince your boss or your colleagues back home that you've heard here that Apex is great, or we can stay with forms, or we want to work with ADF, then send me an email and we can have a talk about how we can work together. Thank you.